it happened, the Pulwama attack happened on the 14th of February 2019. We all, of course, remember what happened then. 40 CRPF personnel were killed. The NIA finally filed a very detailed charge sheet. As Ananya corrected me, I think I made a mistake earlier. It's an 18,000-page charge sheet earlier this week. So obviously you can imagine how detailed it is. The NIA, I think, claims it's a watertight charge sheet that it has filed. What we want to try and understand in this episode of Government Matters is what the charge sheet says, what are the key highlights, and what does it mean going forward, what kind of action can possibly be taken. Ananya, who tracks crime, tracks the Home Ministry for us, is with me. Ananya, so let's begin by talking about the detailed charge sheet. What are the highlights, the big 3-4 takeaways?
So, one, Ruhi, this charge sheet was filed after 18 months of the incident that took place, which is almost 1.5 years. It took NIA a long time to investigate the matter. Why it was important? Because it was a blind case. The main accused, who was the suicide bomber, Adil Dar, who drove his Maruti Eco car into the convoy, killing 40 personnel on the spot, died on the spot. Then most of the people who were involved in this operation were also killed in encounters with the security forces. So NIA told us that it was kind of a blind case. In fact, this year in February, we all did stories on how NIA still seems clueless about the case. They didn't know where the explosives came from, how 200 kgs of explosives came from across the border and landed in Kashmir, and then so close to the security establishment and so close to the convoy. So in fact, the charge sheet, which is so detailed, has answered most of these questions. The main takeaway is that they have said that this attack took place on the behest of Pakistan, and they have named Masood Azhar, who's the Jaish-e-Mohammad chief Masood Azhar, and his brother Asghar in this charge sheet, along with 17 others. So there are about 19 people who have been named in the charge sheet, out of which 7 are Pakistani nationals and the rest are Kashmiri locals. So that is the big takeaway from the charge sheet, that they have named very key Jaish operatives who are, say, top on the leadership in the charge sheet, and said that they have sufficient evidence in form of chats, WhatsApp chats, audio notes, in fact how this entire operation was funded, how money landed from Pakistan to Kashmir, how all 35 to 40 kgs of RDX was smuggled at night in a span of 4 months, how it reached Kashmir, and how this entire operation took place. It's a very detailed charge sheet. In fact, we have been doing some stories, picking up some parts from the charge sheet, and it also gives a very, very detailed, how these people arranged for funds, logistics, who all are involved in this, the locals. So it's quite a comprehensive charge sheet, though we have not been able to go through the entire document as yet, but from whatever we have, it answers a lot of questions.
Right. Now, Ananya, we had this conversation, I remember, in an earlier episode of Government Matters as well, that it's been a long time. I think maybe it was a year, or the 1-year anniversary of Pulwama when we had that conversation. I'm not quite sure why it has taken so long. So, what is the view that does the charge sheet, how detailed it is, the kind of information it has, does it justify the delay or how long it took to file it?
Yes, Ruhi, absolutely, because as I said, it was a blind case for NIA. Most of the people involved in the operation had died, either in the encounters or otherwise. Most of them had fled. 2 of them are still absconding. So to piece that all together into this entire, to answer all the questions as to how all this happened, and such a big operation was planned and financed and executed. Of course, it did take the National Investigation Agency, a lot of work, because it also involved people across the border from Pakistan, and to piece all the evidence that was available, limited evidence that was available with the agencies. Yes, I mean, I have not taken a look at the entire charge sheet till now, but from whatever we have looked at, I think it's quite a watertight charge sheet.
Right. So, Pakistan's involvement, Masood Azhar's involvement, these are all expected lines. Is there anything which is startling or unexpected in the charge sheet, whatever, how much ever we've read so far?
So this, in fact, initially when soon after the attack, Jaish-e-Mohammad had owned up. So this charge sheet, in a way, is just a confirmation of what they had said, that this is us. And but why is it an important investigation is that to bring in all the scientific, forensic, technical aspects together.
And evidence too.
And evidence together to bring it on paper to say that this is the evidence which hints that this money for the attack came from Pakistan. Like, very interesting bit is that they have found WhatsApp chats and audio notes in which it shows that the entire attack cost them 5.7 lakhs. Now this money was transferred in 2 banks in Pakistan in the account of Umar Farooq. He was the nephew of Masood Azhar, who was also killed in an encounter in Kashmir last year. So in fact, he was the handler who had formed the team in Kashmir after he came to India, infiltrated in India in April 2018. So after that, he started forming his team, and he is the one in whose account this money, almost 10 lakh Pakistani rupees, were transferred in Pakistan, and then it came to Kashmir through Hawala and other illegal networks. So these details on how the money reached, and to have these audio notes and these WhatsApp chats to establish that how this trail, how this terror, this entire operation was funded, and moreover, who are the people who helped them in logistics. Like, there is a person who has a shop next to the national highway where this incident had occurred. So that person also has been charge sheeted. Rashid is his name. So he runs a small shop there. In fact, more locals in the area have also been charge sheeted for providing logistical support. So in fact, they have put out the entire story on how they came to infiltrated, how many people were involved, what did they plan earlier, how was the plan executed, how was the money arranged. So it is quite a lengthy, detailed charge sheet which answers most of these questions.
Right. Okay, so let's begin with this question from this YouTube user who goes by the name Winchon Lee. Where will India submit this report, and will India be able to prevent this from happening again? Now, that's an existential question,
yeah.
But just to sort of take this question a little forward, what next? Now a charge sheet has been filed. What is the process now?
Yeah, so now the court will take the cognizance of the charge sheet. As far as the investigation is concerned, 2, as I said, terrorists, 1 a Pakistani national and 1 a Kashmiri local, are still on the run, but they are in India. So NIA is making attempts to arrest these 2. Meanwhile, they have submitted the charge sheet, and the next step, because 7 people are from Pakistan, they are not from India, these are Pakistani nationals, letter rogatories. These are formal communications that are sent from one court to a foreign court. So that has to be, that is the procedure now. So NIA will be writing for letter rogatories, an approval will be given from Ministry of Home Affairs, and then a court in India will be sending it to court in Pakistan. So that is like a letter rogatory. If it is accepted and if it goes through, then the agencies have the, they can go and investigate, and if they need any sort of assistance in the further investigation or any sort of evidence, they can ask from the Pakistani authorities. But the sad part is, Ruhi, that this doesn't usually, when we have seen in past cases also, like the 2008 Mumbai attack, even if these letter rogatories are sent, there is no cooperation from Pakistan's side, and that is where it hits a deadlock, which is why these cases do not go ahead. Naming Masood Azhar definitely is a big step in the charge sheet because they have evidence. But then what happens next if Pakistan shields Masood Azhar and 6 others who are there on their territory? Then I'm not sure where it will go from here.
Right. So Sheel, what can you say about the competence of the NIA if it has admitted that the FBI gave inputs into the Pulwama probe?
No, so I think there is some confusion here. When we say FBI, they have all the servers of Facebook, WhatsApp, because India doesn't have servers. So in any case, not just Pulwama, in any case for that matter, assistance is sought from FBI. So this is not a one-off case in which FBI assisted NIA, or whatever NIA people did, the credit can be taken away from there. Yes, of course, FBI assisted in giving an IP address, which was the starting point, but that happens in all cases because the servers are in the US. In fact, many crime agencies here suffer because whenever a case is related to, say, WhatsApp or Facebook, these servers are not placed in India. These are all in the US. So they have to write to the FBI to give them the required information so that they can take the investigation
more logistical
forward.
Help than anything else.
Yeah.
Right. This is a YouTube user who goes by the name Anon India. What happened to the Dendra Singh nexus? He got released from police, but is still under NIA. So why hasn't any charge sheet been released in his regard?
No, so I think that also, since it is not, but it is not related to Pulwama, but I'll answer that. The Devinder Singh case has been, these are two separate cases. So the release in the case where he was released and charge sheet was not filed was a Delhi police case. So Delhi police had said that we had some information about Devinder Singh being involved in some sort of terror strike that was to happen. So they said that we need to interrogate him. Now a charge sheet was not filed in that because the police did not find enough evidence to charge sheet him, and he was released, but he still remains in custody in the main case that is with the National Investigation Agency. So we should not confuse these two things and say that Devinder Singh was let off. He hasn't been let off. In fact, the case NIA claims is very strong. They have evidence against Devinder Singh and they'll be soon filing a charge sheet.
Right. There's a question from Tanveer. WhatsApp is encrypted, so how did the NIA decode?
No, it's encrypted, but again, as I said, they need, whenever there's a case like this, they need permissions and they need assistance from WhatsApp. So since it is a case of national security, there is a lot of protocol that is followed. Letters are written to WhatsApp, requests are made, and only then WhatsApp releases the data. So, and most of these messages are not just chats but also audio notes. So that is what they have recovered from the phone that was recovered. It's a Samsung phone. So that is what they've sent to forensics, and that was recovered, and these chats were recovered, and a lot of protocol, as I said, was followed for the same.
Right. There's a YouTube user who goes by the name Paras Guglani1. What's the conviction rate of NIA? Do you think politics affected this charge sheet? I think you feel free to take the first one.
I won't go into the politics, but yes, NIA has been claiming that they have a very good conviction rate. In fact, if you compare it to other agencies, whether it is the CBI or ED, ED is very poor, but NIA claims that they have a very good conviction rate. I won't quote a figure, but because I don't remember it offhand. But we have done stories on the same, that as compared to agencies, NIA does have a good conviction rate.
Right. So let's take this question from Raj Deora. It's strange that such a big attack happened and no administrative heads rolled.
I mean, I again would not be able to comment on that. Of course, it raised a lot of questions on the security, on this entire issue that we have always been debating. That how did so many people infiltrated from Pakistan entered India? Then how did so much RDX was brought? In fact, what we were told and what the charge sheet also mentions is that there were a lot of tunnels that were used to enter India. And a very interesting bit about how it was done on the night of Amavasya, which is like a total black new moon night, dark night. So, and these explosives, we were told about 45 kgs of RDX came from Pakistan to India in a span of 4 months in batches, and that came on backpacks. Some of it also came with those people, the shepherds who live on the LOC and who are going across the border every now and then. So, but then obviously it raises a lot of questions on the security and the internal security, the intelligence, because that is what NIA seemed a little irked about. That how is it possible that 45 kgs of RDX is coming from Pakistan to India and nobody knowing?
Right. Okay, let's take this question from Manpreet, who wants to know why it has taken so long for these findings to come out. I think you've already explained that in detail. We have another question. I seem to have lost. Yes, that's Isla's question. Something I want to ask you as well. What exactly is the evidence against Jaish? So if you can just give us 3 broad points of the evidence.
So Ruhi, one, as I said, are the WhatsApp chats with the numbers from Pakistan. These are Pakistani handlers who were in direct touch with the overground workers who were working here executing the attack. So WhatsApp chats is one. Second is the audio chats. There are audio notes that were exchanged. And third, very interesting bit is how they cracked upon the entire financing of this operation. They have deposit slips. NIA is in custody of deposit slips, which shows that this money was deposited in the account of Omar Farooq and for this purpose. Fourthly, there's a Samsung phone, which I said started the investigation, because after a lot of material was recovered from that phone is what gave NIA the initial evidence to work on.
Right.
So because as I said that so many people had died and they didn't have any suspects who were in custody who would be able to give them information. That phone actually kick-started the investigation in a way.
Right. Well, we know all of this is a lot to take in, and as Ananya said, it's a very, very detailed charge sheet with lots of evidence, lots of facts. So do log on to our website, theprint.in, to read Ananya's stories. Sometimes it just helps to read, and there's more that you're able to grasp than while listening. Also, do stay tuned for Off the Cuff this evening at 7 p.m., where our editor-in-chief Shekhar Gupta will be in conversation with economist Arvind Panagaria, who, as we all know, is also the former vice chairman of the NITI Aayog. Don't forget to tune in.